right. Somebody that was in 10 of these war rooms of the Arizona Cardinal, probably more when he was scouting. Steve Keim, my buddy, former NFL GM for the Arizona Cardinals from 2013 to 2022. Patrick Peterson, Honey Badger, Budda Baker, Kyler Murray, Calais Campbell. So let's start with Penix. I said earlier, I'm never going to bag on you for drafting another shooter in the NBA or being quarterback heavy in the NFL. People are sort of outraged by it, and I'm like, Kirk's coming off of surgery.
Right.
Did it bother you?
Not at all. I actually love the pick. Again, like you just said it, Colin, 35-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles. And to me, Michael Penix Jr. was the best natural pure passer in this draft.
You told me that months ago.
Smooth stroke, tremendous anticipation, great ball placement. I thought, again, you can talk about the injuries all you want, which, again, is forecasting. I can't forecast all those injuries. But I can tell you right now, from a pure passing standpoint, the guy's exceptional.
What about the money? People say, I said my bigger issue is Dak Prescott getting $380 million, not
Right.
Kirk getting $180.
Right.
It's a heavily front-loaded contract. Does that mean probably, listen, after a year, I would say year one is Kirk. But what if at Thanksgiving, Kirk goes down, has a bad stretch? Would you go with Penix?
Absolutely. I mean, look at the money that Denver is eating with Russell Wilson. I mean, there's business decisions that you have to make. And, again, there's no better problem to have than a young quarterback being successful.
Yeah. So, now, J.J. McCarthy, I didn't love him. I think he'll work in Minnesota. The draft illustrated that there wasn't this wild scramble to move up. Even Minnesota moved up. There were a lot of smoke screens in this draft.
Yeah.
Harbaugh, best quarterback, got to go number one. That's just Jim wanting to create urgency so he can move down. In the end, didn't the draft tell us that more people like Penix than J.J. McCarthy?
I don't think there's any question. I mean, to me, it just showed what the real market was. And I think that that's the thing that, we do as the media. We create some of these thought processes when in reality, you watch the tape and the tape tells you what a player is. And to me, again, just based on instincts and the feel for the game, Michael Penix Jr., as far as the pure passing skills, was exceptional and really fits in what the NFL is looking for. J.J. McCarthy is a winner, though. You cannot hide from the fact that he is a winner. He operates the offense at an extreme high level. I know people talk about system quarterbacks. To me, a system quarterback is a lot of guys that operate at a high level. And if J.J. McCarthy can do that at this level, which he played in pro offense in college, I think he'll have a chance to be a good player as well.
Yeah, I mean, I went and looked at the draft previews of J.J. McCarthy several months ago. They all said, at this point, game manager.
Yes.
None of Penix has said that.
Yeah.
There were concerns about him, but he was not viewed as a game manager. He was viewed as a great deep ball thrower.
Yes.
Concerns about his underneath stuff. I always said, I'll take a quarterback I got to teach a drag route to,
right.
But you can't make Tua have a great deep ball. Like,
that's right.
I can't teach that.
Yeah.
Bo Nix at 12. Now, I don't know what the comp is, but I tend to think with Sean Payton, it will work.
Yep.
What do you think on Nix?
No, I think he went to the perfect place, just like J.J. McCarthy. I think he went to the perfect offense, with a great play caller. I think Sean will put him in a position to succeed. The kid has tremendous leadership skills. He's another guy who's a football junkie. His dad was a football coach, was also a quarterback. I think sometimes when we get on Bo Nix, it's because some of his struggles previously at Auburn, which I think is hard to do. Look, when you look at the second pick in the draft, Jaden Daniels, who did not play particularly well at Arizona State at times. So both of those guys got to better football programs, got coached in a way where they could improve their game and really help their stock.
I remember this about Bo Nix. He was a freshman at Auburn. Oregon came in with Justin Herbert, and they were favored to beat Auburn. And Bo Nix, as a freshman, had the game-winning drive late.
Yeah.
And I remember, at the time, I'm like, who's Bo Nix? In fact, I was mad. I said, Oregon, you can't lose to a freshman.
Right.
So Bo Nix was a highly touted guy who, by the way, I think there's value in transferring better program, better players, and flourishing, and that's what he did.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I don't love the portal, but at the same time, some of those opportunities that we've seen, like a guy like Bo Nix, I think it certainly has paid off.
People are very critical of Buffalo moving back. Now, first pick in the second round, they have all day and all night to negotiate. It didn't bother me. Your take on wide receivers, their needs moving back.
Yeah, I mean, I always love the top of 2 anyways, because you always have that time, as you talked about, to really judge what's left on the board. Sometimes there are guys that maybe slipped out of the first round that should have been first-round picks, and certainly a lot of good players. I mean, who's to say Ladd McConkey's not going to be better than Xavier Worthy? He may be. When it's all said and done. But, I think probably the biggest thing that I would have had a concern is here's a team that you're chasing, and the Bills chasing the Chiefs. And it's almost like a mind trick a little bit, that they're trading with the team that they're chasing. And I'm not to say that the Bills shouldn't have stood pat and took Xavier Worthy, but the Kansas City Chiefs had already gotten Hollywood Brown, who's a very similar player in the offseason. So another speed guy, another undersized, sort of lean, linear guy. Yeah. Worthy reminds me a little bit of Deshaun Jackson coming out of Cal.
Okay, there you go. So that's your comp. Because to me, he's a track guy that's a bit small.
Yep.
I do worry sometimes if those guys can get off the line, injuries. But you like Xavier Worthy?
Yeah, I think, for what it's worth, he's a speed guy that's going to uncover and create big-time plays down the field. Now, the biggest difference is can he get gritty? Can he play between the hashes? That's the real question.
So the Bronk Bowers pick is interesting. So outside a receiver, the #1 first-round position is tight end.
Yeah.
Bowers is exceptional.
Yes.
The Raiders needed a quarterback. Yep. Instead of moving up, they went tight end. He's good, but that's not generally a position of need, or is it?
I think if you have a game changer, it can be. Particularly for a team like the Raiders, who took the best player available is really what they did. I know that the Raiders were disappointed because I know they wanted Jaden Daniels, and I know they also would have taken Michael Penix Jr. if he would have fell.
Yeah, you heard that too.
Yeah, so their inability to get Penix probably is a real head scratcher. Yet at the same time, to be able to take a guy like Brock Bowers, if you're playing with a mediocre quarterback or a guy who's average at best, there's nothing like having a guy like Brock Bowers to help that quarterback play.
You hosted the show last night with Jay Glazer, LeVar, Rob Stone, the Fox Sports Radio draft show last night. When you're in, I've only been in the draft room one time. You go through, I am sure, 5 or 6 run-throughs on this.
Yes.
Do you ever get caught off guard? Or like when these situations happen, we tend to think everything's thought out, but Atlanta takes Penix.
Yes.
Did you ever have a sense of stuff that was going to happen, or were you ever truly surprised?
Well, I generally felt like I kind of had a feel for it. Yet at the same time, there was one year, I think I was picking 19 or 18, and I'll never forget, there were 4 players that I coveted. That I really, really wanted bad. And then at 19, those 4 players were still there at like 15. So I think, okay, we got a chance to get one of them. All 4 of those players went right before I picked. All of them. And you want to talk about a sick feeling. So I'm sitting there. Matter of fact, I was picking at 20. And then we traded back with the Saints. We took Damon Buchanan, who ended up having a decent career early on. And then we took John Brown with the 3rd-round pick that we acquired from that trade, who was a good receiver for some time.
Yeah, you could see when Jacksonville moved back yesterday, they wanted Brian Thomas.
Yes.
Because Ridley left. And you could see they were praying Pittsburgh didn't take him.
Yep.
And Pittsburgh has a history of landing quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So Jaden Daniels goes 2. So I thought that was the pick. Did you at 2?
Yeah.
Why over Drake May?
Well, I knew Cliff really liked him. And to me, Drake May was a guy that was in that number 2 spot the whole offseason until sort of the lead up to the draft. I think that Drake May maybe didn't have as good an offseason in terms of the workouts, the measurables, and all those different things. I felt like he was a little careless with the football. Sort of turning the ball over. And I don't think he took the Carolina program to a higher level that he should have for being a top-notch quarterback. Yeah. And I thought Jaden Daniels played it just flawless his senior year at LSU.
Yeah, it's funny about quarterbacks. Where they land matters a lot. I thought there was an argument to be made for New England to get the roster right.
Yep.
And then go get a free agent quarterback next year. The ghost of Brady still hangs over that franchise. They go get Drake May with a weak roster, and also he's the least refined of these guys.
Yeah.
Does that worry you?
Yeah, there's something about Drake May that just sort of reminded me of a guy like Kyle Bowler coming out of Cal, or even like a Blaine Gabbert coming out of Missouri. Has all the physical attributes, looks the part, is a very, very smart guy, good upside, yet at the same time, is it there? Does he have it?
Right.
And to me, with the quarterbacks, if you don't have that it factor, it's going to be hard to be successful in this league.
And you knew it with Kyler immediately when you got it.
Yeah, it felt like just Kyler was just a baller. You know, he just had that sort of confidence that he was the best on the field at all times.
All right. Steve Keim joining us for our radio audience. So when you look, so now you have time in your Buffalo, and you're sort of sizing everything up. What if, and Buffalo does need a receiver. Washington Huskies still have two. Texas, I would argue A.D. Mitchell. Many people like him over Worthy at Texas. There's receivers everywhere in this draft. Do you think Buffalo, with the first pick, is getting calls this morning to move back?
Oh, I don't think there's any question. You know, generally, I've had the first pick in the second round. That pick is highly coveted. And we're talking about probably anywhere from, I'm guessing, Colin, 6 to 8 teams are probably calling to try to get up to that spot. Because there are still guys on some people's boards that are top 15 picks for them. You know, a few years ago, I traded up high in the second round for Budda Baker, who was a safety out of Washington that I loved. Yeah. And I had a first-round grade on him, so I traded up to the very top of the second round, was able to acquire Budda, and the rest is history. I think he's been to 5 or 6 Pro Bowls.
Yeah. So, you know, it is funny how people are viewed. Do you follow any of the draft stuff and the experts? You're watching all this stuff? Because, listen, I think most of the time, you know, the draft people are mostly onto it. Obviously, Penix was much more highly thought of than McCarthy. That's pretty clear. Yeah. But by and large, did you ever have a moment in the draft when you just said this, that you thought you may have been on an island with a player? Like, everybody liked Budda to some degree. Budda was a hell of a player. Safeties don't usually go in the first round. Kyle Hamilton did.
That's right.
But do you ever feel and second guess yourself thinking, you know, I like this guy, and none of these draft preview. Did you rely on scouts, your intuition? What is Buffalo doing right now?
You know, I was hoping that the scouts would sort of drive guys up to me that they liked, that maybe even were, and you know, as a general manager, you want people to be emphatic about their opinion. You don't want them to just get with the herd and just do what everybody else, no pun intended, to do what everybody else is doing. You want people to have their own original opinions, and that's what you get paid for as a scout. But, you know, for me, I always relied on my gut and my instincts, you know, which was the big part of it. You have to do that as an evaluator. And look, listen, I mean, the best quarterback in the game early in the draft process was not thought of as a top 15 pick. Patrick Mahomes early on was thought to go in the second round. Texas Tech. Had some poor habits, was not always mechanically sound, and there were some questions about him. I throw on the tape, and I'm like, this guy's going top 10. There's no doubt it's good. Eventually, the right people are going to see him on tape, and he's going to climb the ranks, and he obviously did, and Kansas City traded up for him, and the rest is history.
Well, we talked about this yesterday. Josh Allen was the third pick. Justin Herbert, a lot of people like Tua more than him. Is there anything with all these team drafting quarterbacks? The sizes are different. The shapes are different. The arm talent is different.
Yep.
Is there anything with quarterback, what Washington, New England, Minnesota, Denver, like I think Chicago got the best quarterback. Do you believe that? Caleb Williams in terms of power and jet fuel. Was there ever in your career, was there something that there's a through line where you're like, all quarterbacks at some point have this? Or does that not exist?
No, I don't think it exists. I think they're all so different. And again, the mental makeup is a real big part of it, obviously. And that's the hardest part to read. I mean, we can judge the skill sets, the arm, the throwing motion, all those physical traits that we all fall in love with. The hardest part is to read is the heart and the mind. And they're the two toughest things to do and probably the most critical things to do, particularly at that position. So
I think Arizona has a chance with 11 picks starting yesterday, 2 in the first, to come out the most improved team. Yeah. I ran into Kyler at a UFC fight. We chatted, got along great. There are some concerns, like we know he's the guy. We know it's the talent. Yeah. Do you think stuff is overvalued in terms of video games, putting stuff out, not practicing? I mean, when I watch him play, he looks dialed into me. Yeah. But are those legitimate concerns going forward for Cardinal fans?
You know, I think he's a fierce competitor. I really do. I think he's just a guy that's young and still has not played a ton of football. You think about, you know, in the offseason, he always played baseball in college. Then he goes to the pros. He had a couple good years, then he gets hurt. So now he had to sit out, and I think that time maybe bodes well for him because now he was able to sit back and see what it takes to be a real true pro. And I think the Cardinals aced it. To have two of those first-round picks, to be able to get him a weapon like Marvin Harrison Jr., to be able to get the rusher from Missouri, who I know is a versatile player who can play inside and out, I think they aced it as well as the two other teams who had 2 first-round picks, Minnesota and Chicago.
Were you surprised the Bears in their history took another receiver.
I loved it because I thought there's nothing better for a young quarterback than a great player like Odunze. And to me, I'm not saying he's Larry Fitzgerald, but he has some of those traits. Great character, great leader. He's got tremendous ball skills, great in the crowd, great catching radius. I think they're all in, and he's a really good player.
So Ryan Poles missed on a couple early receivers, Velus Jones, Chase Claypool. He's had a great 6 months. The Bears have a defensive coach. My prediction was Matt Eberflus was going to pound that table and say, do you think last night, I mean, you had defensive coaches. Yeah. Do you think Eberflus was pounding the table? Because Poles is now, he's aced his O-line tackles. Yes. The draft, Cole Kmet's been a player. DeAndre Swift they get. There's been a lot of positive moves. Do you think Chicago, do you think that 9 pick was settled on earlier, or that Eberflus may have been saying, I'm a D coach, I need a pass rusher?
I would think that Coach Eberflus sort of was smart enough to know, listen, if one of these 3 receivers is here to pair with this quarterback, you can't go wrong. To me, again, those top 3 receivers, everybody had them a little different ranked, but at the end of the day, too valuable, too good of a player, too solid. He's almost a can't miss in my opinion.
Finally, Caleb Williams. Any concerns at all? You watched a ton of him. I always say, just go watch the Arizona game. He'll put because Arizona was being a good football team. Anything that worries you about some of his off-script stuff? I
think the simple part of the game. I think, again, when you have guys like him that can do so many rare things physically, sometimes you take sort of for granted the ability to play calm and poised inside the system, not having to improvise so much, which can create bad habits because of your skill set. And for him, I think he just got to play smart. He's got to play within the system. Don't hold on to the ball too long. Get rid of it and live to fight another day. But I think he is a tremendous talent, and he does some things that are very, very hard to imagine.
Now, you saw Mahomes on tape.
Yep.
You saw him. What do you make of that comp?
I think there's some similarities, especially the off-platform throws, the ability of arm talent, the freakish nature to get themselves out of trouble and still make throws down the field. Just exceptional. And I know Cliff had them both, and he thinks they're very similar.
Some people worry Chicago's a big town. He is beautiful girlfriend, big celebrity, USC. I've argued he's the first NIL superstar. We got to give him a little bit of a pass on this. Jumps into the stands for mom, the nail polish. What do you make of all that stuff?
You know what? To me, in those situations, particularly if I want to be the guy drafting him, don't overthink it. There's very few Caleb Williams walking this earth. So don't overthink it. And if you're going to miss on the person, not the player.
Really?
I think if you're going to miss because the guy didn't love it enough. But that's not, to me, after talking to Cliff about him and the way Cliff said he's dialed in, the way he competes, the way he wants to be better, he's a football junkie, I don't have concerns.
Yeah. Look, he was all riled up last night. That was so much fun to watch.
That was great.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.